Hello everyone, we are Team 8 and in this video, we are going to present the stylistic analysis of the short story titled The Sadness Collector. And here are the contents of our presentation.
Hello there, I am Chantel, the leader of Team 8. In this video, my teammates and I are going to present our stylistic analysis of the short story titled The Sadness Collector by Merlinda Bobis. First, let me present to you our overall interpretation of the literary work. Through the use of the imaginary person Big Lady and what is described in the story as her ambivalent relationship with Rika, the narrator is able to figuratively depict and represent the struggle of facing grief and sadness. For Rika's father, he intends to use the story of Big Lady to repress her daughter from feeling sad because of their family situation, Rika's mother being away from them, as evidenced in paragraph 9 where he says, "If she eats all our mess, Rika, she might grow too fat and burst, so be a good girl and save her by not being sad." Rika tries her best to hold back her sadness to save Big Lady. Yet in the process of doing so, Rika is unaware that the non-existent Big Lady becomes her source of comfort and escape for her grief and sorrow. The narrator of the story probably wants to show that we, at times, try our best to suppress and conceal our feelings of sadness and misery, and that perhaps we too have a Big Lady in our lives, constantly reminding us to get into the heart of the matter and helping us to get over our sadness. Here are the different linguistic stylistic features that we have found in the short story. The first foregrounding technique is repetition. Under repetition is the repetition of the pronoun she in most parts of the story, or this can also be categorized as pronominalization. The pronoun she is used repeatedly in some parts of the story to refer to the non-existent character Big Lady, which we can see in paragraph 1. Big Lady is obviously not a real person. However, by using the pronoun she, the narrator is able to give this character a sense of life. By doing this, readers are able to see and understand that Big Lady plays a huge role in the story, most especially in the life of the main character Rika. The pronoun she is also used in other parts of the story to refer to Rika. In paragraph 14, for example, Rika's aunties never mentioned Rika's name, but only used the pronoun she to refer to her. The writer of the story probably did this intentionally to show that even if Rika is the main character of the story, in real life, she is like a pitiful minor character. This gives readers a sense of understanding and empathy to how lonely and alone Rika feels. In paragraphs 47 to 50, the pronoun she is used repeatedly and consistently. However, the pronoun does not refer to the same person. Rika in paragraphs 47, 49, and 51 uses she to refer to the non-existent Big Lady. Her father in paragraphs 48 and 50, on the other hand, uses the pronoun she to refer to his wife whom he resents. The use of the same pronoun to refer to these two different characters in the story may tell us that these are the female figures who play a huge part in the life and situation of the main character Rika. Rika's mother as the root cause of her grief and loneliness, and the Big Lady as a friend whom Rika is trying to save, but at the same time her source of comfort from her sadness. Another one under repetition is the repetition of the noun sadness, which we can find in paragraphs 7, 11, and 18. The repeated appearance of the word sadness in the story indicates that the story indeed revolves around the feeling of sadness, which is the very thing from which the main character Rika is struggling from. The word sadness is also found in the title itself. Next, under repetition is the clause, "She's been a good girl," which we can find in paragraphs 9 and 15. The repetition of the clause emphasizes that Rika has been maintaining her good behavior by refraining to feel sad because she promised her father to behave well and save Big Lady. Rika believes that if she does not stop herself from being sad, the Big Lady will eat all of her sadness and the Big Lady might grow too fat and burst. Another one is the repetition of the phrase "no big bang" from paragraphs 3 and 4. From Rika's monologues, the repetition of "no big bang" shows her thought process of listening and anticipating the fearful explosion. Rika's nervousness may be deduced from this repetition, believing that the Big Lady is real and expecting her inevitable eruption after feeling sad. The last but not the least under repetition is the repetition of the word cutlery from paragraphs 18, 25, and 44. The repetition accentuates the image of a hearing sensation. This, therefore, gives emphasis to what Rika has been hearing every night from the kitchen, cutlery noises. At first, Rika thought of it to be the big lady's doing. However, at the close end of the story, it is at this point that the truth comes out. The noises in the kitchen are made by the father being a drunkard, especially after suspecting about his wife's affair. Another one in our list is the repetition of meaning. The words mouthfuls, platefuls, and potfuls from paragraphs 25 all contribute to the depiction of Rika's full sadness, which she tries her best to suppress. Rika believes that Big Lady has figured out that she has been hiding her true feelings all this time. The mouthfuls, platefuls, and potfuls represent the heart of the matter, the heart of Rika's loneliness and grief.
There is also repetition in the use of Filipino expressions from Rika's aunties and from Rika's father. The utterances of the local language, ay nako, talaga naman, Diyos ko, and hoy, are expressions of local color that is used to reflect the emotions of the characters. For instance, Rika's aunties were gossiping and they made use of the expression ay nako and talaga naman that were used to ridicule Rika's mother, which is her extension of stay in Paris. Also, it was used to pity the situation of Rika. For Rika's father, the expressions Diyos ko and hoy reflects his truthful characterization in relating with Rika, being stern and seemingly irritable when she is whimpering. He again made use of the Filipino expression Diyos ko to express his guilt after hurting his daughter. Hence, the repetition of the local expressions in the text emphasizes language as an emotional expression. Now, let us move on to the next foregrounding technique, which is parallelism, particularly the use of anaphora. The repetition of the word another at the beginning of the neighboring phrases lends emphasis of the similarity between the pot, plates, and the mouthful of sadness. It lends emphasis that sadness is regarded as food in the story because plates and pots are vessels on which food can be served. However, the vessels here are humans because humans are capable of such emotions, particularly sadness. It can occur in response to a negative or unexpected situations or life changes. For Rika, she feels sadness because she longs for her mother, who is working abroad. Her father's sadness, on the other hand, occurs due to feelings of anger and stress because he is suspecting his wife having an affair due to her extended stay and legalization in Paris, as well as anxiety because he is afraid that he may lose his daughter to his wife. Besides that, the repetition of the word another in the sequence of the phrases also indicates that there are more and more sadness that the big lady will devour. We also observe that there are figures of speech foregrounded in the text. But let us start first with foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is used in the very beginning of the story, specifically in paragraph 1 with the passage, "And she will not stop eating. Another pot, another plate, another mouthful of sadness, and she will grow bigger and bigger, and she will burst." It subtly created a tension about the big lady who is about to eat more and more sadness, and for that, she will grow bigger and bigger. It gave tension to how the story will unfold on the latter parts, most especially to the last scenario, when Rika's father threw a fit, making Rika scream and cry, indicating that the big lady will eat all of their sadness that night and may cause a devastating explosion. The second figure of speech that we have found is the use of flashbacks. With the passage, since Rika was 3, her father told her about Big Lady just after her mother left for Paris. This line on paragraph 10 interrupts the chronological order of the story to take readers back in time to the past events, which is 3 years ago when her father told her the story about the big lady. This is a clear evidence that Rika's father told this story to influence how Rika will behave. By repressing her emotions of sadness, she is considered a good girl. She repressed her feelings of sadness because she was scared that the big lady might burst if she becomes too sad. Hence, the story told by her father 3 years ago explains why she behaves that way. There is also the use of symbolism, which is the change of Rika's mother's gifts in paragraph 22. The symbols used here are Rika's gifts from her mother, which is the black satin bow that symbolizes dullness, whereas the girly kitsch symbolizes fun and excitement. The gifts are symbolic representation of how much their family has changed, that the relationship is becoming rather dull. Her father being drunk at night, refusing Rika to read her mother's letters, and her mother suspiciously having an affair. Also, Rika noticed these transitions, just like the sudden change of her mother's gifts. But she is confused as to why, similar to her not noticing the real problems in their family. Apostrophe is also used in the text in paragraph 20, wherein she's trying to call out the big lady by questioning her existence. This poetic speech made by Rika that is addressed to the big lady is designed to direct us readers' attention to the entity being addressed as a means of indicating its importance or significance in the story. In addition, apostrophe is also utilized as a way for Rika to express her internal thoughts of confusion and curiosity to something or someone that is not able to respond. There is also the use of rhetorical questions in paragraphs 5, 6, 8, 16, 17, 19, 22, and 24. The writer has made use of rhetorical questioning to give the story a form of an address or speech, which apparently is from Rika to the big lady. Rika posed a question not to elicit an answer, but to emphasize a point or to create a dramatic effect on how much she is bewildered about the existence of the big lady, and how she thinks of her as a real living creature. These questions also indicates confusion, so she tries to ask these questions because Rika wants to know more about the big lady. At this point, due to her constantly asking questions towards her imaginary friend, the big lady, despite having no feedbacks, she gradually finds comfort in the big lady's companion, as evidenced in some lines when Rika is asking if the big lady has eaten or is she starving, shows her empathy and concern towards the big lady. And to further justify the feelings of comfort felt by Rika to the big lady is the use of aporia in paragraph 19 when she started to contradict her descriptions against the big lady and changing it to a positive one. This therefore manifests the irresolvable internal contradiction or logical disjunction in the text. Rika here is confronted with confusing thoughts, and aporia in the text is when Rika contradicts her initial opinion about the big lady. Like in the first sentence, she tells herself that big lady is sad like her meals, but afterwards she takes it back and says big lady is happy because she is full. This causes uncertainty and makes readers discover the certainty through subsequent statements of the speaker. Again, this is her coping mechanism, which allows her to feel wanted and safer. Her imaginary friend or companion help to console her or even distract her from the events that are unfolding in her family. Second to the last is the use of imagery in paragraph 28, with the passage, back to a fatal curl, knees almost brushing chin. This imagery helps readers formulate a visual picture of what Rika is doing after hearing the noises from the kitchen, which is curling up in a fetal position where her knees are almost brushing her chin. This is a physical reaction of Rika describing as well her emotions. She feels so startled and afraid that her body is responding to extreme stress by wanting to curl up and protect herself because she fears that the cutlery noises from the kitchen is from the big lady who she thinks is about to explode. Last but not the least, under figure of speech is the use of hyperbole in paragraph 52. With the passage, this feast will last her a lifetime if she does not burst tonight. There is an exaggeration of the statement, this feast will last her a lifetime, because this expression evokes and creates a strong impression of Rika to the big lady, how much sadness that the big lady can devour from the night when her father threw a fit because he had come to know his wife is having an affair, causing a chaotic scenario where Rika got shouted at and slapped, causing her to scream and cry, and her father afterwards feeling guilty, leaving them both to be in dread and in pensive sadness.
So let's continue with graphological deviation, waiting for a dreaded explosion. Instead of a using period to end the sentence, a dash is used. The choice of a dash is used to point out her anticipation of the big lady's dread for explosion. Hence, it serves as a stylistic device to create a dramatic pause. Another parts are 6, 8, 9, 15, 16, 17, 19, 22, and 24. The lack of using quotation marks in Rika's monologues and dialogues of hers and the people she hears indicates that Rika is a focalizer. That is, her thoughts and her anticipations of space and time are the subject of the story. This means to say that the narrator is limited omniscient and that the narrator of the story has access to Rika's thoughts and what she hears, giving emphasis to Rika's experience about the story her father made and the situation of their family.
There is also graphological deviation in lines 37 and 40 with the passages shut up and I said shut up in all capitals, signaling the utmost emotion of anger and annoyance of the father towards his daughter. The use of all capitals represents the strong emotions that Rika's father was feeling, and later on it can be entailed that the father slapped Rika right after uttering the statement with full force and emotions. Afterwards, the dialogues went back to using the normal state in paragraph 42, with the passage, I didn't mean to, Diyos ko po, I never meant to. This indicates a deep remorse, a humbling down expressed after shouting at and hurting Rika, and seeing her lose consciousness from his lap.
And for parts 42 to 51, in the above excerpts, dashes, which signify a dramatic pause, close each line and indicate that the lines are spoken in a more dramatic or forceful way. The last 7 exchanges between Rika and father mostly divulge the father's fury toward his wife, wary of the possibility of Rika being taken away from him. It is also significant to note how the two main characters' exchanges come from two different perspectives and not jive. Rika explains that the big lady has come back, being in their midst and about to burst again, while the father talks about the mother's move to get Rika away from him and labeling his wife as a whore. The words potful and plateful is only invented by the author who combined the words pot and plate and with the suffix full. The words plateful and potful departs from their normal standard, therefore its purpose is to create deeper meaning and aesthetic value. To achieve a certain stylistic effect, which is to liken it with the word mouthful, to emphasize the amount of sadness that is being searched by the big lady for her to devour. And for collocational breaks, the author used the words ropes and scream to foreground the prolonging of Rika's screams. She is screaming because of the sounds of throwing and breaking of cutleries in the kitchen. The reality emerges at this point. The noises in the kitchen that Rika thinks to be the doing of the big lady are actually the result of the father's inebriation after learning of his wife's affair.
And that ends our presentation. Thank you so much for listening.